They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean,
yeah. Ryan Reynolds just got hit with the biggest Hollywood backlash of his career. Marvel is allegedly taking legal action, Deadpool 3 is in chaos, and now even Joe Rogan is calling him out. What happened to Marvel's golden boy? How did one of Hollywood's most beloved actors end up tangled in a feud that could cost him everything? It all started with Reynolds' growing influence over the Deadpool franchise. Unlike most actors who just show up, say their lines, and go home, Reynolds had real power. He shaped the script, controlled the marketing, and even had a say in casting. At first, Marvel saw him as an asset. He practically willed Deadpool into existence by leaking test footage in 2014. But now, insiders claim Marvel executives think he's become a liability. And that's where things get messy. The entertainment industry is no stranger to power struggles, but Reynolds' situation is unique. He isn't just an actor, he is the face of Deadpool, an integral part of its DNA. Marvel, which has always maintained tight control over its projects, suddenly found itself in an uncomfortable position. If they allowed Reynolds to continue wielding this much influence, would they be setting a precedent? And if they cut him loose, would the franchise survive the fallout? With the fate of Deadpool hanging in the balance, tensions reached a breaking point. Marvel prides itself on maintaining strict control over its characters. But Reynolds wasn't just any actor. He was deeply involved in Deadpool in ways no other MCU star had been. Insiders say he fought for creative control, even pushing back against Marvel's higher-ups when they wanted to rein him in. At first, they tolerated it because Reynolds had successfully turned Deadpool into a billion-dollar franchise. His ability to blend humor, action, and irreverence made Deadpool one of Marvel's most unique properties.
I think that's like the sign of a good relationship. It's always been the one kind of constant with Blake and I is that, like, you know, we really root for each other.
Setting it apart from the standard MCU formula. However, as production for Deadpool 3 ramped up, Marvel execs allegedly started questioning if he was taking things too far. His influence was no longer just about creative contributions, it was turning into a battle for control over the franchise itself. Reports suggest they were especially furious when they discovered what he had slipped into the script, direct jabs at Justin Baldoni. These weren't just subtle digs or harmless jokes. Insiders claim they were pointed, personal, and clearly meant to take shots at Baldoni's reputation. While Deadpool has always thrived on breaking the fourth wall and mocking Hollywood, Marvel feared these jokes crossed a line. The studio was worried about legal repercussions, industry backlash, and potential damage to its brand. What made matters worse was that Reynolds was unwilling to compromise. When Marvel execs requested changes to tone down the jokes, he pushed back hard. He believed Deadpool was built on its boundary-pushing humor, and watering it down would kill the character's appeal. To Reynolds, this was about more than just a few jokes. It was about maintaining Deadpool's identity as a film that didn't play by the rules. However, Marvel wasn't just concerned about humor. They saw his actions as a direct challenge to their authority. It wasn't just about Deadpool 3 anymore, it was about who really controlled the MCU, the actors or the studio. Behind the scenes, sources say heated arguments took place, with Reynolds defending his vision and Marvel execs standing firm on their demands. The more Reynolds resisted, the more they started seeing him as a liability rather than an asset. Some insiders claim that Marvel executives had already been growing uneasy about Reynolds' increasing power over the Deadpool franchise, and this latest incident was the final straw. Meetings reportedly turned tense, with Marvel making it clear that their priority was to protect the brand. Meanwhile, Reynolds was adamant that his approach was in the best interest of the character and the fans. Neither side was willing to back down, creating an impasse that threatened to derail the entire project. The relationship between Reynolds and Marvel, once built on mutual respect and trust, was now on shaky ground.
If the two of you had married any other people, you definitely would have crushed the other person's soul. Because you are so biting and amazing.
We always tease each other.
Some sources say that executives even started discussing whether Deadpool had outgrown Reynolds, an unthinkable conversation just a few years ago. Could the studio actually move forward without him? Was Marvel prepared to take legal action to regain control of the character? For Reynolds, the stakes couldn't be higher. He wasn't just an actor playing Deadpool, he was synonymous with the role. Losing Deadpool would mean losing one of the most successful projects of his career. But for Marvel, the bigger question was whether allowing an actor to wield this much influence was worth the risk. The tension kept building, and with each passing week, the divide between Reynolds and Marvel grew deeper. The once perfect partnership was now in jeopardy, and the outcome of this power struggle could change the future of Deadpool, and possibly the entire MCU. So why is Reynolds targeting Baldoni? It all goes back to Blake Lively. Baldoni, best known for Jane the Virgin, was directing and starring in It Ends With Us, an adaptation of Colleen Hoover's novel. Blake Lively was cast as the lead, and that's where the trouble started. According to insiders, Lively and Baldoni clashed over creative decisions. Lively reportedly felt sidelined, as Baldoni took more control over the project, shaping the film around his own vision. Things got worse when rumors surfaced that Baldoni was leaking negative stories about her, portraying her as difficult on set. But then, things took a shocking turn. Leaked text messages suggested Lively had been orchestrating her own media strategy, referring to her allies, including Reynolds, as her dragons. This revelation changed everything. If Lively had been working behind the scenes to manipulate public perception, was Reynolds doing the same? Hollywood is built on relationships and influence, and if Reynolds was using his power to tilt things in his wife's favor, it could explain why Marvel was becoming wary of him.
Single dad. I'm a Reba McEntire song. Single dad, doing it, just doing it for them, right? Took them all to the park, told them mommy left when they were young.
The texts also raised another troubling question. If Lively was orchestrating this campaign against Baldoni, was Reynolds helping her from within the industry? The power dynamics in Hollywood are complex, and some insiders claim that Reynolds' involvement in Deadpool 3 was just one piece of a larger puzzle. As the feud between Lively and Baldoni escalated, more information began to leak. People close to the production claimed that Baldoni had grown frustrated with Lively's increasing demands for script changes and more screen time. Meanwhile, Lively felt she was fighting for fair representation. The battle spilled into the media with rumors, accusations, and carefully placed stories shaping public opinion. The controversy escalated when insiders revealed that Reynolds had inserted multiple jokes in Deadpool 3 that mocked Baldoni. One scene reportedly made fun of a Hollywood director-turned-actor who insisted on starring in his own movies despite being unqualified. Sound familiar? Marvel execs allegedly weren't amused, fearing the jokes could cause legal trouble. At first, these jokes seemed like typical Deadpool humor, irreverent, biting, and self-aware. But insiders claim that the lines weren't just casual digs. They were specific, calculated jabs designed to humiliate Baldoni in the public eye. Some in Hollywood saw this as Reynolds using his influence to settle a personal score, a dangerous precedent in a franchise that prides itself on balancing comedy with broader appeal. Reports claim they demanded rewrites, but Reynolds pushed back, insisting on keeping them in. That battle allegedly created a massive rift between him and the studio, leading Marvel to reconsider his future in the franchise. The deeper issue wasn't just the jokes themselves, it was the power struggle they represented. If Marvel caved to Reynolds, it would send the message that actors could override studio decisions for their own agendas. But if they removed the jokes, would Reynolds go public and expose the creative differences? Reynolds was known for using Deadpool as a platform to poke fun at Hollywood, but this time, the jokes had a sharper edge. Sources say that when Marvel executives watched early cuts of the film, they immediately flagged the jokes targeting Baldoni as problematic. They feared that not only could it spark legal backlash, but it could also alienate key industry players. Reynolds, however, wasn't willing to back down. He saw Deadpool as a reflection of his own humor and personality, and he wasn't about to let anyone censor him.
It's believing that people and humanity are inherently good. And they crave nutritious food in their soul, just as they do in their bodies.
Behind closed doors, heated negotiations took place. Marvel executives reportedly reminded Reynolds that Deadpool was still an MCU property and had to align with their broader brand strategy. Reynolds, on the other hand, argued that Deadpool had succeeded precisely because it wasn't like the rest of the MCU. If anything, toning it down would be a betrayal of what made the character work. The more Marvel pushed, the more Reynolds resisted. According to insiders, at one point, studio executives even suggested shelving the movie entirely if a compromise couldn't be reached. That's when rumors of legal action began circulating. If Marvel couldn't control the film's content, they were prepared to challenge Reynolds' contractual authority over creative decisions. Industry insiders began taking sides. Some supported Reynolds, arguing that he had built Deadpool into what it was and had every right to shape its future. Others saw it differently. Was Reynolds letting personal grudges cloud his professional judgment? If he was willing to risk a blockbuster franchise just to take shots at a rival, how much of a liability had he become? With each day, the tension grew. The situation wasn't just about a few jokes anymore, it was about power, influence, and control over one of the most profitable characters in modern cinema. Would Marvel find a way to rein Reynolds in, or was this the beginning of the end for his reign as Deadpool? Then, Joe Rogan stepped in. While he wasn't directly involved, Rogan reportedly mocked Reynolds on his podcast, suggesting that Reynolds' behavior stemmed from not wanting Lively working closely with Baldoni. He implied that Reynolds was stirring up trouble because he didn't like the idea of another man having professional influence over his wife. Rogan's remarks only added fuel to the fire. Was Reynolds really trying to protect his wife, or was he using his influence to settle personal scores? Either way, the damage was done. Rogan's podcast has a massive following, and once he put his opinion out there, it became part of the public conversation. Some sided with Rogan, arguing that Reynolds' behavior was controlling, while others believed Rogan was just stirring the pot for views. The controversy quickly spiraled beyond just Reynolds and Baldoni. With Rogan amplifying the discussion, the narrative shifted from Hollywood gossip to a broader conversation about power dynamics in the entertainment industry. Was this a case of an overprotective husband interfering in his wife's career, or was Reynolds justified in his actions? The internet was divided, and as more people weighed in, the backlash intensified. As Rogan's comments went viral, media outlets picked up the story, further inflating the drama. Whether Rogan intended to or not, he had now become a key player in the unfolding saga. The situation was no longer just about Deadpool 3, it had become a full-blown media storm that was dragging Reynolds, Lively, Baldoni, and even Marvel deeper into the controversy. Marvel allegedly took drastic action, filing a lawsuit against Reynolds. The stakes were higher than ever. Would Reynolds survive the fallout, or was this the beginning of the end for his reign as Deadpool?